So what we're going to do today is go through the creation of a basic Vsig algorithm. You can see the building blocks going from making the connections into the various modules and configuring those modules, and then feeding that to the output and then uploading that to the H9000 and then testing it out, making a decision about, maybe where do you go next. And, we're just going to start with the basic delay. You just need a few components. So I'm using the latest version of Vsig. Yeah, 3.1.2. This is a great version of Vsig, and you can find that in your Eventide user account. I'm finding it very stable. They've added some capabilities to help you track your routings, because you've got to make sure that you're placing modules in correct orders, and we'll cover a little bit of that. So 3.1.2 is the best version to kind of kick off on. So we're just going to start with 2 mixed modules. Just doing copy and paste, Command C, Command V. Okay. And the reason why we're going to use 2 mixed modules here is because I want to do this in stereo. Okay, so we're going to take in 1 into mix 1 and then in 2 into mix 2. I'm just going to rename these. So delay mix left, delay mix right. And this is my kind of naming convention, but you've got to find something that works for you. It's quite important to have a good naming convention, because things can get pretty complicated pretty quickly. And you'll see that whatever you name them here, that's what they appear as in the modules list. Within Vsig here, you'll notice that you can see all the different modules that are available. It's a very, very long list of different modules to do different things. We're not going to cover many of these today at all, and in fact I'm not even familiar with several of them. I haven't used them yet. So what we'll just do is collapse all of that, and we'll just work within certain sections. So what we've done here now is we've taken the N1, N2 and put that into the delay mix left and right. And then the next thing we're going to need is a delay. So we can type delay here, or you can just type DL or whatever to filter. I'm just going to take the most basic delay, and we're going to put that afterwards. Now, what happens when you drag this on, you would have noticed that you can place it after or before. So if I go and place that there, now this is module number 3, module number 4. But what I want this to be is after. So, but I prefer, which way is the right order? You could go 1, 2, 3, 4. But I tend to go 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4. So we're kind of moving in a parallel signal flow. I once created a delay like this, but then I needed to make that 1, make that 2, and then do 3 and a 4, because I wanted to put the delays in series. Anyway, so we're going to connect the out of this mix into the in, and if you hover over, you'll see that this is the output, and if you hover over there, you'll see that that's the input. And actually, just to demonstrate what happens if you put things in the wrong order, I'll take this output, route that there, and now you can see they've got these little yellow blocks around them, and that's what that means. Basically that these modules are in the wrong processing order. Okay, so we'll do that and that again. Okay, and we let me just save that actually. And you can find all those things on the file menu. And now I'm going to take this into a stereo mixer just because it's a little bit easier. I have tended not so much to use the stereo mixer because I like to have my knobs and all to have similar values, just to show that point. Basically the stereo mixer here, the gain is -3. So this range down here, if you select a module, you'll see if you select one of these parameters, you'll notice down the bottom there that this goes a minimum of -100 and a maximum of 0. And this is really just a mixer, okay? And then pan is going to be -1 to 1. And why do I point this out? Well, because if I go to the delay mix left and I select the amp, then you'll see that's -1 to 1. And really, I'm just going to work within the 0 to 1 range. What happens if you go -1 to 0 is you're going to invert the phase. I've added in the stereo mixer, and I'm going to add a couple of additional inputs. This is a nice convenient way to do some setups, and I'm not going to be creating any knobs for the stereo mixer at this point in time, so I'm happy to use the stereo mixer. So I'm going to add 4, and we're going to take in 1 to in 1, in 2 to in 2, and then the delay output to in 3, well, the left delay, and the right delay into in 4. Okay, and then within the stereo mixer, you can see now you've got in 1, in 2, and you can click on these to also make connections or to disconnect, etc. Okay, and this is the other reason why it's really important to name things, because you could end up with multiple delay modules within an arrangement here. So it's quite important to have a good naming convention. So with that in mind, I'm going to just call this left delay, right delay. I get rid of the number because at some point that's going to become irrelevant anyway. It added a 4 on because it was the 4th module to be added into the arrangement. But when I start adding knobs in, then that's all going to come even before this first module here, and then those numbers really don't mean anything, and they just take up space on the right. But however, you can resize this. It was the case that this was not resizable for a while, and you couldn't see the full name of whatever module was connected, but thankfully that has been resolved. Okay, so we've got left delay, right delay, and as you can see, we've got the inputs coming into the mixer, and then you're going to feed back the delay into in 2. Okay, and that's now our feedback, because your signal is going straight onto stereo mixer, and when we connect these to the output, this is going to have 0 delay on it. So these ones, okay, from that input to that output. These ones, it's going to come into the mixer, and then you can go into the delay, and then that's going to be output into the stereo mixer. So in this case, these you're only going to get a delayed output from this little network over here. You have to define your max delay. I can set my delay amount here. I can try and set that, well, I want that to be 600. But you can't, because you've set your max delay as 100, or this is defaulting to 100 as soon as you add the module in. So I'm just going to make this, let's say 3000. Okay, and then you can change that and then go up to 3000. Let's do the same for this one. But I'm not gonna make these changes here because I want this to be controllable through the user interface. Now let's go and find a couple of knobs, but I'm not going to do it using the search this time. I'm going to find that under interface. Now there's a whole bunch of different interface elements here, and what I'm going to do is get a knob. Okay, and the knob is going to allow me to define a minimum and a maximum, and because the delay mixer goes from -1 to 1, this knob would have to have, I'm not going to use the inversion, so I'm only going to go 0 to 1. But now, then we have to set a 0.01 resolution on this knob, so that when you're turning the knob, it's going to move up 0.01 increments. But I don't really think that looks particularly nice within the user interface. So what they've given us here, and I'll keep it here and show you just out of interest. So let's set that up then. Example. Okay, percent and 1.2 F, and then we've set that, and let's go 0.2. Okay, so what have I done here? I've given it a name, And the name of this knob actually within the user interface is going to be example. And then you have to put a percent sign. And that just says, well, this is part of the variable. So percent 1.2, the 1 over here is going to say, well, you know, look at our max. Our max is going to be 1. So that's the integer. And then the dot 2 is going to be the floating point value. So because we're working with a resolution of 0.01, so then we go 1.2. And when I load this up on the H9000, you'll see what I mean. And then you put an F. So that's basically the variable. And then you can put a suffix on here, which says, you know, whatever. It's not dB, but you could put dB, and then that's what you'll see in the interface. Okay, so let's just leave that for the moment. And so what I put here was a 0 as the min, a max of 1, a resolution of 0.01 for the increments, and then I specified a default so that when the user interface loads up, this is going to be set to a default of 0.2. Okay, now let me show you the difference if I use a percent knob. The min can be 0 and the max can be 100. And actually, just so you can see, here's the docs you can find on the window menu. You can go module documentation, or you can just go Command D, and that'll give you a bit of a description of that knob. And what this knob's going to do is actually, the display is going to go from 0 to 100 because that's what I've configured, but the output will go from 0 to 1. So it's actually doing a divided by 100 output. So it makes it perfect for this delay mix left and right. So even though I'm putting 0 to 100 over here, and I'm going to specify a default of, let's say, 20, it's going to output as a default of 0.2. So I hope that makes sense, but on the user interface, it's going to show a 20. Okay, and then for the name of this knob, this is going to be delay level percent, and then we put the percent. Now, because this is going to be 0 to 100, we need a 3 to say that there's going to be 3 numbers before the decimal. And then we specify the decimal, and I'm not going to add anything after the decimal. So it's going to be 3.0. And then we put the F. And then because this is percent, I want to show a percent symbol within the user interface. So I put 1%, but because percent is kind of denoting a variable, etc., it'll just actually be ignored in the user interface. You have to put 2% if you want to see a percent sign. But these are just little things that you have to just learn over time. And believe you me, I've made a lot of errors with user interface modules. Even some things that have crashed the H9000 because I did something that I wasn't supposed to do. So let's go 0 to 100 and then default to 20. Now, you know, we just got to rename this, and I'm going to call this level delay level knob. Okay, and that was the example knob. Right, so we'll just put that at the bottom actually. Okay, and then we're just going to duplicate that. And when you duplicate it, the name kind of reverts back to what it would be if you dragged it in from the module library over here. The next release of Vsig will use a derivative of this name, of the source module. But when you do select that, you are going to see in there that everything is going to be the same. So what this is going to be is delay feedback. Okay, and now we're starting to use a bit too much space there, but so we can drag that out. And I'm going to put 0 to 100, and for the sound I want to go for, I'm going to put that at a 70. Okay. And then we're going to rename this here. Okay, DLY feedback. I prefer to keep my names shorter so that they're more legible. And then let's add a, I'm going to use this one as a copy of that. And this one's going to be 0 to 3000. But you know, actually we can make this anything we want between 0 and 3000. The delay modules themselves are set to a max delay of 3000, but whatever we set this knob to, that is going to define the minimum and the maximum that you'll be able to adjust it to within the user interface. Obviously you can't exceed 3000. So I'm going to just change this for this purpose to 2000. And I'm going to set the resolution to 1 because I don't want any to work with any decimal values. And I want the default to be 400. Okay. And over here, remember, we can put in the name. So we're going to change this whole thing. So that's going to be 0. And this has to be, you know, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. We're going to go 4.0. And the .0 obviously just means we're not going to be working with anything after the decimal. And the name of this is going to be delay. And let's just set that to 1 millisecond as the minimum, actually. All right, and this is going to be delay knob. Right, now let's connect these things up. So the delay level is going to go into amp 1, and I'll talk to why that is in a moment. Okay, so delay level, I mean, it's going to be better we actually load it up and we run a test through the box. But what we're saying is turn down the source signal. So whatever's coming in through the analog to digital conversion or any of these inputs, feed that into these inputs. If you look over here, you got in 1, and then amp 1 is going to control the level for in 1. And then likewise, amp 2 is going to control the level for in 2. Okay, and now you can see we've got all these nodes kind of lighting up because the module order is wrong. So I'm going to hold down shift. Now I'm holding down shift and I'm going to drag this knob and I'm going to put it over here. And when I drop it on this module, it's going to move this module to number 1, and that's going to be number 2. And that's a great feature. I love that. So now we've got module 1, module 2, and then 3, 4. These should all kind of be before the audio modules. Okay, and then the delay knob we'll put over here, and that's going to go into delay amount. You can see that highlights the name. And then let me shift and move this after number 2. So that's going to be now module number 3. And then I've saved as well. So I think that's now done, but you know, sometimes you just have to load it up and give it a quick test. But one thing I know I need to do here, if I select the stereo mixer, we've got gains of -3 for all of them, because you know, when it's summing them all up together, it's basically ensuring that you don't peak and clip the signal chain. And then pan, everything is set to 0, so everything's just going to be put in the middle. So what I'm going to do here for pan 1 is going to go -1, pan 2 is going to be 1, because pan, if you see down here, the minimum is -1, the maximum is 1. It's not the same as levels where it's inverting. It's basically just saying -1 is left and the 1 is right. And we're going to go again, -1 here and 1. So any stereo signals will be treated correctly. So if I go and load this up now on the H9000, let me show you. Then emote, there's going to be no interface elements. Yeah, this is all the basic controls that are on any algorithm. So what I need to do here is add a menu page. And then I'll give this a few nsubos. I don't know what that is really calling itself, but add 6. And then we'll put a delay level as 1. So we drag from the pink nodes. We'll put that there. And this pink one over here. And then delay knob. So now we've got 3 controls for this interface. And this goes to ADC Kids. And this is basically connecting this menu page into the interface on the H9000. So let's load that up and see the difference. Okay, you'll see we've got a 20%, we've got a 70% delay feedback, and we've got a delay of 100 milliseconds. I didn't add this example now, but yeah, let's go and throw that in at the bottom here. It doesn't matter if you leave a couple of spaces. Do that, save, and here you can see that that's like working in decimal values. I personally think this looks nicer. Cool, so we'll just get rid of that now. There might be some times when you would want to do that, but personally I prefer the percent knobs. So we've deleted that now, and yeah, let's push that up to the H9000, and you'll see that we haven't got a name here for the menu, so I'm going to go and add a name, and we'll just call this delay control, and now you'll see we've got a better name for that. And within Logic, what I'm going to do is start recording. Okay, now I'll add this audio into this recording, but what you're going to hear is now I can then adjust the level. I can turn this down, so which means we're not going to hear the delay at all. Okay, and then feedback's going to do absolutely nothing because, you know, we've basically zeroed out the delay level. But if I pull this back up, let's say to there, and now we can make this 600 milliseconds, for example. Now that's 600 milliseconds. We can make that 1200 milliseconds. If I went to around about 20 milliseconds, okay, now as you can hear, we've got this this cool kind of electronica type sound. Okay, and now if I drag this around, if you see when I drag this, we're basically working with a coarse range. So if I hold shift, we can then go a lot finer. Now if I want to take that down to around about 10, so we're at 12 now, I can take that to 16, and then take that to 20. So we've created a basic delay in Vsig. There's many ways to achieve the same thing. So I could have probably done the delay feedback loop using stereo mixer. You know, we could add on a high cut filter to give a bit more of an analog feedback effect, so the delays get a little bit darker over time. Could have done a dry wet control instead of having a delay level control. And that's all just maths, etc. When I pushed this to the H9000, I actually really liked the sound of the basic delay, certain parameters, and it gave me a bit of an idea. So it's got this metallic thing going on, but if I turn this down, then the pitch goes higher. I thought, well, you know, what would happen if we actually sequenced that? I basically took that algorithm that we created and I enhanced it. So we still got the delay feedback loop over here and added on a couple of high cuts for that more analog vibe and a bunch of sequencing capabilities. And then I pushed that to the H9000. As you can hear, there's a bit of sequencing going on. So we've got the delay controls over here where you can actually, these delay controls, the only ones that really have any meaning are the delay feedback and the high cut and the sequence. So if you put this into fixed mode, then all of these become active. Otherwise, if you leave it in sequence mode, then actually only the feedback and the high cut not going to have an effect. Right, and then I might change that a little bit. I haven't spent too much time figuring out that kind of layout. And then under sequence, you can specify your BPM. You can set the steps. You can go whether that be 8, 16, 24, 32, and here's all the different steps. And these are an actual delay parameter for each step. And you define how long you want your step to be. So that will be quarter notes at 100 BPM. So this parameter is literally going to change one beat every beat. Okay, and then there's the sequence glide parameter, because I switched to the mod delay, and you can actually hear a bit of that in the recording there as it's playing back through the H9000. You can see there. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, and added some MIDI stuff, so you'll basically restart the sequence so that it's more reproducible. And there's also some re-trigger options here as well. And if I slow down the sequence glide parameter, and then obviously we could change the steering thing. I'll also actually set it so that when I set these to 0, then it's going to pass through the dry signal. So you're only going to hear the dry signal. That is the dry signal. You know, there's hardly any pitch information in there at all. You know, it's just beats, right? Yet this algorithm has gone and created some pitch elements of it. Well, I hope you guys find this useful. Okay, cheers.